You clicked on my face because you wanted to learn about flute and how to start from the beginning to end. This video is long. Use the chapters in the description and along the playback row to find the place where you need to be while you're studying. You will need to reference back to certain parts of the video as you're learning, because undoubtedly, with every student that I've ever taught, you will find yourself forgetting something that I said along the way. Rewatching sections of this video is not uncommon, so do yourself a favor and eliminate that fear right away. The very first thing we have to do as flute players is understand that it takes a lot of air to play the flute. Your lungs start up here at the collarbone, very tiny little bits of them, and travel all the way down towards your rib cage. Here's a trick to make sure that you always get a great inhale. So imagine you just came up for breath after holding your breath for 30 or 45 seconds, and you needed a lot of air in your body right off the bat, okay? Take a breath kind of like that. Blow out the bad air first. Oh, wow, that's a lot of air. Okay, so when you breathe like this, it'll really fill up to the very top and it'll let your belly expand. But if you need to feel this a little bit more, put your hand on your stomach right here and your other hand on your lower back behind you. What you'll find is that you feel your body relax and expand as you take that breath. Let's take another breath like we were just coming up for air from the swimming pool. Ready, go. Notice that I didn't go, that was not the goal here. It's not weird sounds. We're just trying to make sure we get a lot of air in. So think, oh, the back of my mouth is dropped, the back of my jaw. I'm thinking like I'm looking like this and taking a very haughty breath. Try this a few times and see how much you can expand. One thing that students will do sometimes is they'll raise their shoulders when they take that breath on purpose. They'll go like, we don't want to see those shoulders raise on purpose. We might see them raise slightly because we breathe and we naturally expand. So don't fight that, but at the same time, don't make them go up right off the bat, okay? One more big breath, ready, set, go. Good job, that was great. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to breathe in a little faster and see if we can get more air in a shorter amount of time. Remember, drop that jaw and think open with your throat. Ready, set, go. Good, good. Now, let's make a fake embouchure real quick. And just blow out through the middle. And let's do another one, but this time blow out through the center of your body. Ready, set, breathe. You'll notice that you have a lot of resistance right here and you feel like you can go forever with your breath, with your air coming out of the body. That's excellent. That is the sensation that we want when we're playing the flute. We want tons of air capacity and just a little stream of air coming out through the middle. Great job. Practice breathing every day for a while and really for the rest of your life as a flute player, and you'll find that your air capacity gets better and your ability to play efficiently gets better too. Nice work. Going on to the next step now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to make the flute embouchure. So we're going into how to make the face that is going to allow us to play the flute head joint and the flute essentially right off the bat. We start by making sure that our mouth is in a closed neutral position like this. Just hanging out. You want to then firm up your sides and the cheeks and bring those in towards your teeth. You'll notice that I have nice defined muscles from all of my years of trumpet playing. You'll develop those too as a flautist. So neutral, flex. And then the next part is going to be inside of the mouth. And this is going to be a little weird to show you, but just follow through with me. Bear with me. You're going to arch the tongue in the back of the mouth by saying E, but not really E, more of like a You're raising the back of the tongue right around there in the back. All that front space in the front is where we're going to use our tongue to articulate, and also where some of our sound quality is going to come from. So Let's go through the steps from beginning to end one more time. Close, neutral mouth. Firm. Tongue back, tongue up in the back. And then open space in the front. Good. Now we're gonna blow out through the center of our mouth while we're making that face. So make the face again, practice this a few times with me. Then blow through the center of the mouth, just blowing the lips apart. Blow the lips apart. Good. When you blow the lips apart, you have a much smaller, what we call aperture. That's where the air comes out of your mouth. That's really important. As a flute player, we want to have really good efficiency so we can play long, long notes. Having our lips together first and then blowing them apart is going to set our aperture up to be nice and tiny so we don't run out of air in 2 seconds when we go to play the flute. Let's do that whole system one more time, and then I'll let you be the one to go back and rewind the video to practice as much as you need to. So neutral face, flex, tongue up in the back, and then space in the front, and then blow through the center, keeping the lips closed and blowing them apart. Okay, very good. So pause the video here and go back and do that as much as you need to until you're great at that and you can look fairly close to what I'm doing. The next step with blowing is going to be being able to angle our air up and down. As a flute player, we've got to be able to direct the air up and down. So take a pencil or a pen and put it in front of your mouth like this. And that distance away is our minimum distance from our face that we want to be. So I want you to take a moment and have that distance. For me, it's about the width of my hand doing this. I want you to make that face. Blow at the center of your hand, right in front of you. When I went to do this, the first thing I noticed was my air was shooting down at my forearm. So I had to angle my air up with my jaw. If you look really closely, we're going to zoom in really close here. That jaw moving forwards and backwards and going up and down is going to help you move that air upwards and downwards. Now that you've got your air blowing at the center of your hand in front of you, now I want you to practice going up and down with your hand. So it'll look like this. The more you can angle up and down and all the way down and all the way back up, the more you're going to have control over your airspeed. And this is going to make a big difference when we go to play higher notes and lower notes on the flute. Take some time and practice this sensation with me in the YouTube recording by yourself. Go look in a mirror and keep this paused. Come back when you've got this part perfected. Don't forget great embouchure, firm sides. We don't want to see this. We're not trying to be Dizzy Gillespie, the most famous puffing trumpet player of all time. Good. I'll see you when you're ready for the next step. Pause the video now. Great. We're on to the next step, which is going to be finally doing something with the flute. All this preparatory stuff is going to help us out in the long run and make our jobs go faster. Trust me. Okay, so get your flute case out. Mine's right here. You need to make sure that you can read the label, or that there's some sort of indicator on the top of your box. Whether it be a Yamaha or a Jupiter or whatever kind of instrument that you have, usually there's a clear label where you can read it and it'll be like the right side up. If you have it the wrong direction and you go to open it, all of your stuff is gonna fall out. So we don't want to have that happen. On these kind of cases, you pull on the latches like that, and it opens the case up. Okay. All right. Now that you've done that, you're going to make sure that you can look at your flute and we can identify the three big pieces. We've got the head joint. We've got the body. It's the big long piece. And we've got the foot joint. Foot joint. I want you to do the same thing with yourself at home and pull the pieces out and put them back in the case, because this is part of packing up our instrument, which we don't ever go over in these kind of videos. So this is a good opportunity to practice. Pick it up, take a look at it, look around at it, and then put it back in your case and make sure you can get your flute pieces back in the case the way that they came. If you mash your case down while it's not in the right spots of your case, you can damage your instrument, and that's automatic repairs. Pause the video there and practice doing that a couple times, and I'll see you in the next step. Okay, great. Now that you've done that, we're going to go on to the head joint and playing on it. So grab your head joint. You'll notice that the head joint has an opening and it's got a closed point. You want the closed point on your left side. Your left side. Which one makes the correct L? The left side. When you do that, your lip plate will automatically be in the correct position. You'll notice that the lip plate is bigger on one side than on the other. Great. So now that you've got that on your left side, we're now going to grab it here, right on these outsides of the lip plate. Don't put your fingers in front of the hole, but on the outsides. We want to have full clearance of that. The cut of the tone hole is here. See the big part of the lip plate where your lip is going to go? The middle of the red of your lip is going to go right on that inside cut where that hole is. Okay? So middle of my lip. I'm going to put that cut right there. Right in the middle of my red. Notice that my face is still neutral. Find the middle for yourself as well. Take a moment and pause the video and make sure you can find this place where the cut is touching the middle of the lip. Okay. Now, before you start to blow, remember your good embouchure, neutral face, firm sides, tongue arched in the back, space in the front. Magic. If you are too far in, it will not make the sound as well. If you continue to roll out too far, you will stop making the sound. So you want to have the cut on the red of your lip angled in just about that far. If you find that your cheeks are puffing or you find that you're not making a good sound, watch yourself in the mirror and get really close and be very objective, which means be honest with yourself about what it looks like. Are you rolled in too far? Are you rolled out too far this way? One other trick that I tell students is you want to kiss the center, kiss the opening, and roll out. If you do that, you can actually practice blowing with it being too far in and rolling out. And it'll actually probably magically open up. Last piece to remember is your angle of your air. Are you blowing towards the middle? Do you have that jaw ever so slightly pushed out or lips forward? If so, this should be a little bit easier for you. If it's not doing that, experiment with the direction of your air with your hand and then put it up to your face and copy that. Being able to make an excellent sound on the flute head joint is a staple of flute playing, and we can't go any farther in the process until you're pretty okay at that. Now, You don't have to be the best head joint player in the world. Don't get me wrong. You should move forward if you're making a sound at this point. But if it's really airy, like that, or if you're getting a, then that's not it. We need to keep working on it until it's a loud, vibrant noise. Good. Couple tips going forward from here is you can close the opening for an easier blow. Practice that too. You can also practice going from here to open, but you have to make sure you accelerate the air ever so slightly when you pull your hand away, or else it'll disappear. And then a funny little trick that sometimes is fun, you can stick your little pinky inside the hole and make like a little train whistle sound. Check this out. Fun times. Practice that a bunch. Make sure that you can do it without thinking about it too hard. This may take a couple days of practice before you actually get to the instrument, and that is okay. Come back to this video or unpause when you're ready to move forward with the next step. The next step in our flute journey is going to be finally putting the flute together. So the flute is one of the easier instruments to put together, but there are a few things we need to consider. So let's grab our body, main body, the big piece. We're going to put this end on our left side. This is the part, the 10 end on our left side. We're going to hold it carefully without hitting any of the buttons for now until you get more comfortable. We're going to hold it like this. Okay, carefully not grabbing any of the rods. The next piece we're going to grab is our foot joint. Our foot joint. Careful with these finger buttons. You don't want to clench and grab them too hard. You don't realize your own strength until your flute's broken. So lightly touching these keys. We're going to note the rod. The rod is this piece right here. It is not going to line up with this rod. It's not. Instead, we're going to put it together so that it makes a straight line, and then turn it so that the bottom rod is almost directly lined up with the bottom button. So again, I've got my hand on the tenant up top. I've put the foot joint on so that the rod is in line with the button itself, not with the actual rod on the flute. Pause the video now and make sure that your flute looks like mine. Just a quick side note, you will not be able to put this on incorrectly. The end of the flute at the bottom of the foot joint is too small to go onto the tenant, so when you go to put the pieces together, it will only be able to go one way. The last step is going to be putting our head joint onto the flute. So again, I'm holding by the top tenant to be careful not to grab the keys too hard. I'm going to take my head joint and slide the darker part, right? This is the part that you're going to insert into the tenant. And for today's purposes, you can push it all the way in so all that colored part disappears. That's okay. Eventually, we'll teach you what to do with the distance of how much of that darker color is shown. We have a fully assembled flute. Double check yours and make sure it looks like mine. And then before we move on too much further, we need to talk about where the tone hole goes in relationship to the buttons, because this flute has to be set up so that we can hold it correctly. The middle of the tone hole needs to line up with the buttons on the main side of the body. Notice how this goes in a straight line and affects those, and there's the rod at the bottom. All that should be a straight line through the center of your tone hole. Pause the video and make sure your flute is put together like that. If you want to do some extra practicing, try taking it apart, putting it back in the case, making sure it's in the correct spot in your case, closing, opening, and doing the whole process one more time. That little bit of practice will make a big difference next time you go to pick up the flute and put it together. Pause the video now. I'll see you when you're ready for the next step. Okay, now that you're here with us, the flute has many parts to it. It's got buttons that have like circles. It's got little triggers. It's got thumb pieces in the back. It's got these little trill keys right here that move really quickly. It's got pinky buttons on the foot joint. A lot of different types of buttons. It's important that we clarify where you want to put your fingers at all times. There will be some deviation on this in your life as a flute player, but generally all the time it will go like this. The head joint and the closed off part of the head joint is on your left side, and the flute comes along your right side of your body. So remember when we blew on the head joint, the opening was going to your right. The flute is now going to our right. We're going to grab the very base of the flute down here as best we can without clenching on the buttons too hard. And we're going to take our left hand, remember the L, when you read it makes a perfect L. We're going to take that hand and we're going to, kind of like you're shaking a hand, put it like that, and reach under the flute and find that key. Notice on the flute, there's two of these buttons. The longer one is the one that you want. Pause the video and make sure your hand is in the correct position. When you're ready to move on, unpause. You'll notice right off the bat, with the left hand, you're going to see a button right here. This button is never performed with your fingers. You're always going to go to the next one in. Mine has a little divot. The next button, this one right here, also is not played on the flute with a finger. You're just going to skip that one and put it right here on that little dimple. So dimple with the pointer finger, dimple with the middle finger, and then your third finger, your ring finger, is going to go on the third dimple before this little pinky key. Now we don't play that pinky key for a long time, so you can just let your pinky kind of fly a little bit and be hanging out to the side like you're having some tea. Last thing that's important, remember when I said go like this? And then we brought our flute up? Okay, so our thumb is still here. We've had to adjust from kind of a handshake motion to a little bit more of a arched open hole motion on the inside of my hand there. And then look on this way. I've got my flute resting on my first knuckle of my hand. Thumb, dimple, dimple, dimple. One more vantage point. When you push keys on the flute, sometimes other keys go down as well, and that's normal. Now that we've got our left hand figured out, let's go ahead and remove it. That's the harder of the two hands in my opinion. We can just hold it like this, or we can put our flute on our shoulder and steady it with our left hand. We're now going to work with the right hand. What does the right hand do? The right hand is going to play these buttons down here near the foot joint. You'll notice that we've got a bunch of buttons right here. This is where our pinky is going to go. Right here on that button. You'll notice there's a few options here, but it's this one. Put your pinky there. And then we're going to put our 3 fingers, dimple, dimple, dimple. And then thumb underneath. As far as where to put the flute on that right thumb, we're going to use the nail bed right about here to place the flute on it. My wife accidentally played like this for a long time and it messed up her hands a little bit. She got a little bit of wrist troubles as she went on to play flute, and then somebody finally fixed her and said, no, no, silly, like this. So that's been a big pet peeve of mine, a big thing that we've both preached in teaching students how to play. Pinky, dimple, dimple, dimple. Thumb, like that. Okay. Around to this angle. I'm dunking the basketball. I'm hanging on the rim. It goes over. All right. Now that you've got this, practice taking your hand off and putting it back on several times, and memorize where those fingers go every time you go to play. Take a moment and do the same thing with your left hand. Left hand. And don't forget about that knuckle that it sits on. Right there. Not the webbing, but the knuckle. First knuckle. Now that you've been able to do that, let's put the hands together. So left hand here, right hand, pinky, dimple, dimple, dimple. And you can push all these fingers down if you'd like. Your pinky and your left hand will be waving. Everything else will be on a button. Good job. Excellent. Pause the video and make sure your hands look just like mine and that you don't have any questions for yourself. Be critical. Go look in the mirror if you need to. Have someone else look at the video with you and double check and make sure your fingers are in the correct spot. Learning how to hold the flute properly is the hardest of all the beginner instruments. There's a lot of buttons, there's a lot of angles. This is why this portion of the video has taken so long. But once you get this right and you're able to play on the head joint, a lot of things are going to be unlocked and you're going to be able to play really quickly. We're not in a race to see how fast we can play the flute. We're in a race to see how good we can play the flute. And these skills that we've done so far are going to help you really play the flute well. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. We're now going to play the flute. I'm going to teach you your first note, which is an E flat. Let's grab our flutes correctly. We're going to get our left hand into position. Make sure you rest on the knuckle. Right hand thumb on the nail bed. Pinky, and then dimple, dimple, dimple. Good work. We're going to put the flute to our face. And before you try to play, I've got to have you do one thing so that this E flat comes out great. The thing you're going to do is wave your pointer finger in your left hand. Don't push this key. Wave it at me. Hello. And let's play whatever comes out. Remember, good embouchure face. I'm gonna get real nice and close and personal with y'all. Hello. Kiss and roll. You can experiment in the opposite way to find where it lands. You can also roll too far out. As you blow. Take care to always take that full breath before you start to play. Don't lock your knees when you're standing up, and make sure you're sitting up straight in your chair if you happen to be sitting. I love standing, but not everybody can do that when they're doing this type of thing. It's okay for you to sit, just make sure you sit up straight. Kiss and roll. I am blowing the lips apart. I am not opening them to make the sound. A lot of students will go like this. Try not to do that. Close them and blow them apart. Now, pause the video and see where you're at with that process. Go back and rewatch any of the sections that have to do with finger placement, or with how to play on the head joint, or with angle of air, or with just how to make the face on the flute if any of this is not working out so far. Now it's time for our first challenge. Challenge number 1 is going to be, how long can you play the note E flat in one breath? I'm pretty bad at the flute in comparison to my other instruments that I play, so we'll see how long I can go for. Ouch, not very long. How long can you go for? Get a timer on your phone or on your computer and see how long you can last. Can you beat me? If you can, let me know in the comments. Now that we've played our first note on the flute, we're now going to move on to the second note on the flute, which is very easy in comparison to the first note. So remember how you had your fingers for the E flat? Hello! Pinky waving. You also had your thumb in its correct place and your pinky dimple, dimple, dimple. Remember all that? Well, in order to play the D on the flute, we are going to take that fingering and adjust one thing. We're going to lift the pinky in our right hand. Ta-da! So, check that out one more time. Here's an E flat. Here's a D. Whoa, Mr. Butler, that's super easy. It is. Lift up. Same face as before. Neutral, kiss and roll. Try that note. Make sure it can work out for you. Pause the video and go back and watch any sections that you need to reinforce where to put your fingers or how to make a great sound with your face embouchure, the angle of the air, or maybe closed neutral lips blowing apart. Okay, great. Now we're going to do our next challenge, which is how long can you play the D for? It's the same goal as for the E flat. How long can we play it for? See if you can play as long as me. 1, 2, ready, D. Man, I'm not blowing too long, so if you beat me, good job. Let me know if you beat me on the D as well. All right, our last fingering is going to be F, and this note F is the third note, and it is one of the trickier notes at first. I'm going to walk you through it nice and slow, though. So our left hand here is going to go back to the original way we taught you with the finger down in the left hand. This is your left hand, by the way. Push that finger back onto the dimple. Now you've got thumb, 1, 2, 3 in the left hand. In the right hand, we're going to pretend like we're playing the E flat, our first note, and we're going to lift just the ring finger and the middle finger. So just the pinky and the pointer on those two keys. Very important that you don't shift that finger over by accident. It'll land right there on that. Good deal. So you've got thumb in the left, 1, 2, 3 in the left, pointer in the right, and pinky in the right. Those fingerings are your F. So wave with your pinky and wave with your right hand, middle, and ring finger. When you put it to your face, make sure you remember good embouchure, good breath, kiss and roll. Did yours come out? Pause the video and see if you can get yours to come out. Now that you're back, let's double check and make sure your flute doesn't sound like this. That would be incorrect at this point. We're trying to play the F in the staff, at the top of the staff. But Mr. Butler, my flute note goes too low. That's okay. You need to bring together your lips a little bit more. You need to make sure your tongue in the back is arched the way that we taught you. And blow ever so higher, angled up with your air. A little faster air too. Notice I'm not going like that. Try it again with me. If that note doesn't come out right away and you get a lot of those low ones, or you get that sound, try angling your jaw forward ever so slightly and back to find the sweet spot where that higher F pops out clearly. We don't want to be splitting the octave, which is what I was just doing. Low F, not the one we want. Splitting the octave, also not what we want. There's the higher F at the top of the staff. And that's the one we want. Sometimes I think about my top lip pushing down onto the air as I'm blowing as well. Sometimes that helps me get that note to come out as well. Pause the video and make sure the F is coming out the way that you're hearing me demonstrate it. Okay, now that you can play your F note, now it's time to transition between all three notes. The first note we learned was the E flat. Remember how it is fingered? This thumb will always be down for right now. E flat. Okay, let's do the D. Wave with your pinkies. Hello. And now let's go back to the F. The F is the new note. Don't forget to replace the right hand pinky. Before you do this, you're going to put down the waving left hand pointer finger. Left hand pointer, push that back down. And then raise your middle and your ring finger in the right hand. It's really helpful at first if you put your head joint on your shoulder and you practice going E flat, D, F, D, F, D, F. And if you don't want to worry about that pinky in the right hand, try doing E flat to F. Here's E flat, here's F. And that way your right hand pinky stays down. E flat, F, E flat, F. You're going to be really slow with it at first, and that's okay. Practice going between those notes, just fingerings only, saying the letter names as you switch. And as you do that, your brain is going to associate the letter name with the fingering, and then when you go to play the flute out loud, you won't have as much of a hard time doing it. So here's our E flat. Here's our F. We're going to play F next. Always aiming for the dimples. It's never going to be a different note than the notes we showed you originally, where you put your fingers down. Can you go to the F, to the E flat? Now, can you go from the E flat to the D back to the E flat? Now, can you go D, E flat, F, D first? Good. Can you go backwards? F, E flat, D? If you can do all those things, congratulations, you're going to be able to play the flute. If any of this is too hard or is taking too long to get to, take a few steps back and go to the place where it was a little bit easier for you. Every day you will see growth as long as you stay positive and you remember the tips and tricks that we learned along the way. Bookmark this video, save it, whatever you need to do so that you can come back and watch this as much as you need to in order to become the flute player that you want to be. Remember that I've got Smart Music tutorials, which are Smart Music and Make Music Cloud is the learning platform that I like to work from. You can practice and learn those songs with me in the YouTube recordings for additional difficulty and to start going forward on your journey of playing the flute, not just with the first 3 notes, but eventually to the first 4, 5, 6 notes on your instrument as well. Congratulations for making this far. You are excellent. I'm proud of you. Your family and your loved ones are proud of you. Your friends are proud of you. Go show some people off your new skills, and I'll see you in the next video. Drop a like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.